Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Cirque du CFL 4, which is one of the three majors that is taking place this weekend. You're going to have Sumomoto SB52 coming in at an S tier, this tournament coming in at an A+ tier, as well as the Lit Invitational also coming in at an A+ tier, which just pretty much has the top 16 seed of this event, those being Luis, Peanut, Beast Mode Paul, and Kananabe in 13th. T, Cola, Doramigi, and Lima in 9th. And 7th, you're going to have Zomba and Light. 5th is Tweak and Snow. 4th is Mia. 3rd is Shattuck. 2nd is Hurt. And projected to win the entire thing is Spargo. And we're going to be staying just within this top 32 just because there weren't any upsets that I saw prior that I thought would happen, but that doesn't mean that they won't happen. Of course, upsets are going to happen. If there are any sets that look interesting, just leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to tell you what I think of it. But starting off with our first seed of Spargo, his first opponent is likely going to be up against Kananabe, and I would heavily favor Spargo to win this one. Not only does he have so much experience versus Light, but from the other perspective, Kananabe probably doesn't have that much experience versus a super high-level Cloud player. The only one in Japan that I can think of is Yoshi. Now, that doesn't mean other Cloud players don't exist, of course, but the point that I'm trying to get across is that Cloud, not a super common character in Japan. Spargo has a ton of experience versus Fox, so character knowledge-wise, it's going to be heavily in Spargo's favor, as well as just skill-wise. It's the best player in the world. Kananabe is no joke by any means, and at Port Priority that other time he came to NA, he absolutely farmed. So could he pull off the upset? Yes, but I definitely would not bet on it. Then you're going to have Zomba versus T. Now, they haven't played in quite some time. I believe it was the last main stage where they played, but I definitely wouldn't quote me on that one. It ends up going into T's favor, but I am going to be picking Zomba to win this one. I think Rob is pretty good into Pac-Man, and form-wise, I do think that Zomba has been a little bit better than T recently. Now, we could also see the Kazuya come out from T. I don't think Kazuya does amazing versus Rob by any means, but it may be a better matchup than Pac-Man. I'm not really sure what T's stances are on that. He should have experience in the matchup, just considering that he's played against Zachary before, and there's a couple other good Rob players in Japan, so it shouldn't really be an information thing where T's getting caught off guard. I just think Zomba is gonna better player him, which is something that I've never said before about T. It feels wrong, honestly, coming out of the tongue, but I think that is what is going to happen. Then you're going to have Spargo versus Zomba, and I do think that Spargo is going to win this one. Not only does he win their most recent encounter, but Aegis Rob is just, like, really difficult for Rob. Now, you do have a win condition in that matchup with the offstage gameplay, and Zomba has beaten the best Aegis players in the world before. It's not unthinkable for him to pull off that upset, but the way that Spargo's been playing recently and the matchup, it's just not great. And then Group Block, I should mention that Zomba and Spargo have played twice recently at the Lit Invitational, with Zomba winning the first set and Spargo winning the more recent set. So technically Spargo did win their last encounter, but they traded sets the last tournament that they were at. So it's going to be extremely competitive, but still slightly edged out towards Spargo. Next up is Beast Mode Paul versus Mia, and this one is actually very interesting because there's a lot of things in the Game & Watch Hero matchup that I think are pretty decent for Hero. You've got those disjoints on Game & Watch you're going to be killing very early because Hero just hit like a truck, and Game & Watch is also super light. You're also going to have Reflector, which can mitigate that Game & Watch up air, which is like a huge part of his game plan, especially for Mia. That's how he gets probably like 70% of his damage, but also Game & Watch has Bucket, which is like such a big problem for this matchup, and the deciding factor for me ultimately to give it to Mia was because he has a 2-0 record on Akka, and I do think Akka's been a little bit better than Beast Mode Paul this year, but in Beast Mode Paul's favor, you know, Mia can't read the menu, which is pretty important when you're playing against Hero. So I think the set is going to be very close. I'm honestly not super sure who's going to win it, and in that situation, I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt to Mia, because at the end of the day, the guy is still Mia, but that should be a good set. Then you're going to have Tweak versus Cola, and I actually think that Cola is going to make the upset here. First things first, played out of his mind the last time we saw him at the Luminosity Invitational. Same thing for Beast Mode Paul, by the way. Shout out to him. I think it was Riptide, the major that he first got his first top 8, but whatever. Cola played out of his mind at the Luminosity Invitational, and Tweak has a awful record versus Roy. I think he's lost all of his encounters versus Cola. I think he's lost all of his encounters versus Goblin as well. At the very least, Goblin has a winning record there. So Roy has been a bit of a sour spot, no pun intended, for Tweak. Has he improved that? I don't know, maybe, probably, I would assume so. It's been quite some time at this point, but until I see that he's actually good in the Roy matchup, I'm not going to bet against the best Roy player in the world, so I'm going to go with Cola to win that one, and I'm also going to be going with Cola to take this set over Mia, and it is purely just based off form. We are going full cope here. He was just playing so well at the Luminosity Invitational, and Mia has had a bit of a drop-off in performances recently. It's all relative to, like, how good he is as a player. He's still getting good results, but he's just not, like, you know, grand finals winning every single major event. So Cola playing the best he probably ever has. Mia in a little bit of a rough spot right now. All the stars are aligning for that Cola W. Next up is going to be Peanut versus Hurt, and I think Peanut is going to pull off the upset here. In fact, I'm feeling pretty good about him pulling off that upset because I think this matchup is god-awful for Snake. If it wasn't for Min Min and Game Watch, which were like designed to be the antithesis of this character, I would say that Mega Man is Snake's worst matchup. He's just so disruptive in the neutral with the pellets. I think he camps better than Snake does. He does really well around the grenades, and of course, Mega Man players are going to have good grenade control because they themselves have an item in Metal Blade. The disadvantage is really tough for Snake because up air, if you're holding a grenade of Snake, I mean, you're just going to die. Forward air hits you off Cypher. There's just so many things about this matchup that are really, really difficult for Snake. And I think Hurt still has a chance because he's hurt. But to be honest, that's it. If it was any other Snake player in the world, I would not even bat an eye. I would just say Peanut wins that one and moves on. Because it's Hurt, I'm going to give him a little bit more leniency, but I still expect Peanut to take that dub. Then you're going to have Light versus Dormigi, and I do think that Light is going to win this one. Normally, when it's Dormigi versus an NA player and they've never played before, even if they have played before, to be honest, I'm just going to bet with Dormigi just because they don't know how to play around that Min Min. They aren't ready for the Min Min. What that Min Min do, it is so dangerous. But because Light is on Fox, I don't really think he's going to have a problem overwhelming Dormigi. Now, he's still going to have those same issues of getting edge guarded off stage. That's obviously going to be something that he has to figure out. But I think it's going to be to the point where Light is just winning more interactions than Dormigi. He's also going to be killing Dormigi in 1 or 2 hits, even if it's not from the edge guarding. It's more so just going to be because his advantage state is so good and he's going to be able to secure that stock. So because Light's damage output is so high and he's so fast, I think he's going to be able to kill Dormigi, you know, before he can get edge guarded. But that one is going to be really, really interesting. Honestly, the most interesting set out of any of these, in my opinion, just because we haven't seen it yet. But then you're going to have Light versus Peanut, and I definitely think that Light is going to win that one. Mega Man just struggles versus Fox. Straight up, really difficult matchup for that character. Honestly, don't have a ton more analysis to add to it. I do think that Peanut could win it. There are a couple things that are really strong for you in that matchup. I think the offstage gameplay is really good. Some of the Metal Blade combos into, you know, up tilt specifically. Fox is a light character, so you can steal stocks. There is cheese in the matchup, but it's really hard to cheese Light when he's running at you like 500 miles an hour. And our final top seed is going to be Shattuck. His first opponent is going to be up versus Luis. And the only time they played offline, it does go into Luis's favor. But that was before Shattuck had his kind of like blow up of just becoming a top 10 player all of a sudden. And matchup-wise, I think Corn Palutena is about as even as it gets, not really going into either character's favor. And in these past couple months, I do think that Luis has had a slight uptick in his performance, but not enough to the point where I would be betting him over Shattuck. He's been incredible. He's a top 10 player in the world. I literally just said it, but I feel like we got to hammer that point home. This guy is very good, extremely difficult to beat. Luis has beaten players of his caliber before. Not impossible, but not super probable either. Then you're going to have Snow versus Lima, and I think this one is super interesting. Another matchup that I'm really looking forward to if it happens, because you've had Snow playing a couple times versus Tom P. He loses their most recent encounters, but to Tom P's credit and Snow's credit as well, I do think that he is better than Lima. But I don't know if his style would be better against Snow, because Tom P, very aggressive Bayo player, running you down, extremely difficult to space against because he's just overshooting like crazy, versus Lima, who is like the exact opposite. He is going to be playing that with punish style. He's camping you out. And I actually think that benefits Snow a little bit more. When you allow him to kind of set the pace a bit in the neutral, allow him to control the tempo space when he wants to, I just think it's going to be heavily into his favor. If you give Snow the chance to actually make his openings, I think it's going to be a lot harder than just trying to stuff him out constantly. Mario is a character that you can do that against, and it's not that Lima can't do that. He is good enough to, he just typically doesn't. So if he doesn't have a playstyle shift there, I do think that Snow is going to take that one. Then you're going to have Snow versus Shattuck, and I'll be a little bit boring here. I just think Shattuck is going to win it because the matchup is like awful for Mario. Really difficult for him to get in against that super big sword. So Shattuck's going to move on to that top 8 to the winner's side. And for Fluck, it should be noted that Snow does have a 100% win rate against Neo, so that's obviously going to be something that is in his favor. I still think Shattuck's going to win, but Snow clearly good at the matchup. And you know the drill at this point, we don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to be happening. So I'm taking the players that are most likely to top 8, and we have given them their percentages. You're going to have the confident tier with Spargo, Cola, Light, and Shattuck. Fairly self-explanatory. Those are the guys that picked the top 8 to the winner side of the bracket. Then you have somewhat confident with Mia, Hurt, Tweak, and T, and those are the guys that picked the top 8 to the loser side of the bracket. Specifically, I think Mia's going to get top 8 through this part of the bracket right here because I have him losing to Cola. And I should mention that I think Lima and Luis have like a really good chance versus Mia, like 55-45 for both of them, with the favor, of course, being towards Mia. But I'm still going to have Mia coming through here because even though these encounters are still tough, I would expect him to win it, and then I would expect him to like sweep everyone else that he would probably see in this chunk of the bracket. So Mia's going to get that top 8. I think Hurt's going to top 8 through this part of the bracket right here because I have him losing to Pivna. He's got an amazing record versus Dormi, despite that matchup being terrible, as well as a 2-0 record against Zomba, so he should top 8 there. Then you're going to have Tweak top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. He should be fine versus both Kobe and Beast Mode Paul. Mutis, I think, could be a little bit scary, but that's if Mutis makes it that far in the bracket. And honestly, I think with their recent form, I would expect Beast Mode Paul to beat Mutis here, but that's a topic for another time. Tweak versus Snow, I do think that Tweak would win that one because even though their set of Riptide was super close, I believe it was at Riptide, you still had Tweak coming out on top. And then our final top 8 person or player, I suppose, is going to be T, and he's just going to qualify through this part of the bracket right here as God intended, except instead of fighting Light, I am predicting him to be fighting Piba, and I honestly think that's going to be a pretty close matchup, but I do expect T to just slightly eke that one out. And then in terms of everyone else that could make it into this top 8, you're going to have Zomba and Dormi. I want to put these guys in a tier of their own because they are not top 8 picks just because they have Hurt in their losers bracket, or I have them having Hurt in their losers bracket, and that is literally the only reason. And pretty much every other timeline, these guys are either in the winner side or the loser side, but Hurt just happened to put an end to it. And then you're going to have Snow, Lima, Beast Mode Paul, Peanut, Luis, Kananabe, Mudes, Kobe, Aaron, and Epic Gabriel. And outside of those 20 players, I don't think anyone else will be getting into the top 8 at this event. And I know I've said that before, but specifically at this event, this is one of, if not the most top-heavy major that I have seen in quite some time. And because of the top 8 is gonna slap, and I'd say we get into that now. And we have finally arrived at the top 8. This graphic, as always, was made by the lovely Memorization. Their link will be down below, so be sure to check them out and sub while you're down there. But our first matchup in the winner's side is going to be Spargo versus Cole. We get that run back of the Luminosity Invitational Grand Finals. And they end up trading sets in that Grand Finals, all ages versus Roy. And I think if they were to run it back, I would expect Spargo to come out on top because I think Colo is playing the best he's ever played at the Luminosity Invitational, and he's probably not going to be playing that good at this event. I still think he's going to be playing well because he's just been playing well recently, but I think on average, Spargo's average is higher than Cola's average. Cola's peak was good enough to beat Spargo like we saw at the Luminosity Invitational, but I just don't think he is going to be on his peak this time around. And if he is on his peak, it also has to encounter the factor that Spargo isn't at his peak, because Spargo's peak, I also think, beats Cola's peak. It's basically just about peaks and valleys at the right time, who's playing good that day, and I think on average, they play 100 days, Spargo wins, let's say, 60 of them. Then you're going to have Light versus Shattuck, and this one is also really interesting because matchup-wise, it's been going a lot more into Shattuck's favor recently, though you do have Light winning their most recent encounter, though at this point, it's honestly pretty old. I think it was like Gommel or something. So really, they haven't played in quite some time. The matchup is super swingy into Light's favor, but Shattuck form-wise and in their encounters has been doing better and better, so it's super close between them. I'm just going to slightly give this one out to Shattuck because, as I literally just said 2 seconds ago, I think his form has been a little bit better, but it's only by like a little bit. And in group block again, I know I'm showing not a lot this video, but Shattuck and Light actually played more recently at Riptide, and it was a 3-0 into Shattuck's favor. So basically, I was right and I didn't even know. In the loser side, our first matchup is going to be Mia Hurt, and this one is going to be heavily in Mia's favor. The matchup is very difficult for Snake, and historically, Mia's just been winning all of their recent encounters. I think Hurt only won their first ever encounter, and to be fair, she's beaten Mia before. He can do it again, but it's just extremely difficult, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Greninja come back from Hurt, because he's effectively dropped the character. We haven't seen him play in quite some time, just so he can fully invest into Snake, and I do think that is the correct choice for him, just because Snake is such a high-maintenance character, but this is very clearly a struggle matchup. Yes, you have tools to succeed in it, but it's just like you're basically playing a different character in Game & Watch Snake because you don't use any of the explosions. It's just such a different game plan that at this point you might as well pick up a character that at least does okay in the matchup. Now, in this encounter, do I think Kurt's going to play Greninja? No. But I also think he's going to lose. And even if he did play Greninja, I would still expect Mia to win it. But it's just like something else, some variety from her to try and figure out this matchup. But at the end of the day, it really does just come down to, do I want to invest my time into playing the matchup in a weird way, or do I want to invest my time into playing the matchup with a different character? And Hertz clearly made his choice. Is it the right choice? I mean, I guess we'll see at this event. Then you're going to have Tweak versus T, and you do have Tweak winning their last encounter, but I'm still going to be going with T to win this one just because Pac-Man Diddy Kong is really difficult for Pac-Man, or rather for Diddy Kong. It's very clear that Tweak had put a ton of time into the matchup the last time you played T to be ready for it, but I think if Tweak just puts in, or rather T just puts in a little bit of effort for Tweak, just gets prepared for that Diddy Kong, it's going to make it exponentially harder for Tweak to repeat what he did at Genesis. Next up is Light versus Mia, and on paper, you would definitely favor Mia here, considering that he plays both Game & Watch and Steve, which are potentially Fox's two worst matchups, but those are also probably the two characters that Light is the best against. He has so much time in those matchups, so much counterplay has went in, and he is very good at them. And he also has a 3-0 record on Mia in their last 3 encounters, including wins over both the Steve and the Game & Watch, a 3-0 over the Game & Watch coming most recently at Riptide. So Light has been very successful whenever these two guys have been playing, and it's still going to be an uphill battle for sure for Light, but hey, he's done it the last 3 times. He can absolutely do it this time as well. Then you're going to have Cola versus T, and you know, matchup-wise, I do think that I slightly favor Roy here, but player-wise, T just has a very good record versus Cola. It is 3-0 overall. Now, to Cola's credit, they haven't played in quite some time, and as I've already mentioned a couple times in this video, he has been playing hot recently, but you're gonna have to be playing like really hot for me to completely ignore a 3-0 record. So we've got our top 4, Spargo, Shattuck in the winner's side, and Light T in the loser side, starting off with Spargo versus Shattuck. And this is a conversation that I've had many times before, but whenever it's like a sword player versus another sword player, I'm almost always going to be favoring Spargo. I literally just did it versus Cola because fundamentally I just think he's the best player in the world, and fundamentally the better sword player usually wins that one. But Shattuck has beaten Spargo before. This is not an encounter that is going to be easy for him. In fact, I think it's going to be an extremely close set, but I do think that Spargo is going to take it simply just because I think he is slightly better than Shattuck right now. And he also has more experience in the matchup just because he's played so much Corn versus Shattuck, who doesn't have as much experience versus Cloud. So for all of those very small reasons, I'm going to be giving it to Spargo. Then you're going to have Light versus T, and these guys have not played since quarantine happened. It has been a very long time, over 4 years at this point, and I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to be going with Light to win this one because I think matchup-wise, Fox does better against Pac-Man than Pac-Man does against Fox, but prior to this, they have a 3-3 record. They haven't played in like a million years. It is very tough to tell who is going to win this one, but honestly, I kind of really need to see it because now I'm just curious. In the losers finals, you're going to have Shattuck versus Light, a repeat of this winner semis match, and for the exact same reason as the winner semi match, I think Shattuck's going to win that one. The grand finals is the repeat of the winners finals, and for the exact same reason as the winners finals, I think Spargo's going to win that one. I know it's a little bit anticlimactic towards the end there, but I'm not going to explain things that I've already explained. That is just wasting your time. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The sport has been absolutely unreal as late. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.